That bag of flour in your pantry right now, the one you reach for every time you roll out a pie crust. A 2025 study in the journal Food, Nutrition, and Health examined a century of chemical data from American flour mills. The bleaching agents still used in those bags produce a byproduct called alloxan, the same compound scientists inject into lab rats to destroy their pancreas and trigger diabetes. And the brand with the worst result is the one someone you trust recommended, the unbleached upgrade you pay extra for, thinking you made the safe choice. I'll show you the one word on any flour label that gives it away. 11. To stop buying. 3. That earned your trust. Starting with the brand that has changed owners the most. Number 14. Baker's Corner. This is Aldi's store brand flour, and if you shop Aldi, you probably already know it sits at the bottom of the price shelf, about $1.60 for a 5-pound bag, sometimes less. What you might not know is that Aldi does not mill its own flour. Baker's Corner is contract produced, meaning Aldi buys from whichever industrial mill offers the lowest bid that quarter. The mill can change. The wheat source can change. The supplier name never appears anywhere on the packaging. The only constants are the bleaching chemicals and the word enriched in the ingredient list. Under FDA Regulation 21 CFR 137.105, any flour that has been chemically bleached must carry the word bleached on its label. Baker's Corner does carry that word, buried in the ingredients panel, but the regulation does not require the manufacturer to name the specific bleaching agent that was used, so you know the flour was bleached. You do not know with what. The legal options include benzoyl peroxide, the same compound used in acne medication, chlorine dioxide, and chlorine gas. All three agents have been banned for use in flour across the European Union since the 1990s. The United Kingdom, China, and Turkey followed with their own bans. That is most of the industrialized world looking at the same science and reaching the same conclusion. America reached a different one. Aldi built its reputation on cutting out the middleman and passing the savings to the shopper. Baker's Corner puts more middlemen between you and your flour than almost anyone else on this shelf, and none of them have to tell you their name. It is like buying a house without knowing who built the foundation, then being told the paint looks fine. But this is the smallest player on the list. Bigger volumes mean bigger questions. Number 13. Great value. This is Walmart's house brand, and its 5-pound bag of all-purpose enriched bleached flour is the highest volume flour SKU in the country. Walmart reported over $648 billion in global revenue in its 2024 fiscal year, and private label grocery products are the fastest growing segment of that number. Industry data from Circana, formerly IRI, estimates that store brand baking products carry profit margins 30 to 40% higher than name brands sitting on the same shelf. That is the motive. The flour is bleached, enriched, and priced at roughly $2.60 for 5 pounds. The ingredient list is standard: enriched, bleached, wheat flour, niacin, reduced iron, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid. Walmart does not disclose which mill produces great value flour, and the supplier contract can rotate between facilities without any notification to the consumer. The 5-pound bleached bag has over 17,000 reviews on Walmart's website, which tells you how many households this flour sits in. For perspective, King Arthur's 5-pound bag, the brand at number 1 on our good list, has fewer reviews at the same retailer, but costs only about $4 more. $4 between a flour with a disclosed source, a published protein content, and 2 centuries of accountability, and a flour where you cannot even find out who milled it. Your grandmother paid for the name on the bag because that name told her who was responsible for what was inside. Walmart removed the name and kept the margin. It is the grocery equivalent of whiting out the return address on a letter and asking you to trust it anyway. At least Great Value is honest about being bleached. It says so in plain type. A different label on a different shelf tells the same story. Number 12. Kroger All-Purpose Bleached. Kroger is the largest traditional grocery chain in America, operating nearly 2,700 stores under banners like Ralph's, Fred Meyer, Harris Teeter, and its own name. Kroger reported over $150 billion in revenue in fiscal year 2024. Its store brand flour is bleached and enriched, and the ingredient list reads nearly identically to Great Value and Baker's Corner. Enriched, bleached wheat flour, niacin, reduced iron, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid, enzyme. That last word is worth pausing on. Enzyme. The FDA does not require manufacturers to specify which enzyme is added or what biological function it performs in the flour. It is a catch-all term, a single word standing in for any number of unnamed processing agents. It could be fungal amylase. It could be xylanase. It could be a combination the mill does not even disclose to the retailer. Every major store brand uses it. Imagine buying a bottle of medicine that listed one of its active ingredients simply as chemical. That is what enzyme means on a flour label. It is legal. It is industry standard, and it tells you exactly nothing about what you are feeding your family. Kroger's flour is produced by contract mills the company does not publicly identify, and customer reviews on Kroger's own website mention inconsistency between batches, which is consistent with rotating mill contracts. The formulation can shift with the supplier agreement, and you have no mechanism to know when it happens. The bag looks the same. The price stays the same. The flour inside may not be. The brand at number one has never added an unnamed enzyme to any bag it has ever sold in over 235 years of operation. We get there in about 15 minutes. But first, a name your mother would recognize from the church potluck table. Number 11, Martha White. Martha White has been on American shelves since 1899, and for most of the 20th century, it was milled by a family-connected company in Nashville, Tennessee. This was the flour that church potluck tables were built on. The bag your grandmother reached for without reading the label because she already knew what was in it. Then, in 2004, the Martha White brand was acquired by J.M. Smucker, the same conglomerate that owns Jif Peanut Butter, Folgers Coffee, and a portfolio of other legacy grocery names. Today, Martha White all-purpose flour is bleached and enriched, milled from soft winter wheat with a lower protein content than most national brands. The label carries the word bleached, but does not identify the specific bleaching agent because federal law does not require it. The chemicals used are legal under American regulation. The silence about which chemicals were used is also legal, but the flour is treated with agents that the European Union, the United Kingdom, China, Canada, and Turkey have all independently decided to prohibit. Every one of those countries examined the same body of research and said no. The United States said it depends on the dose. Smucker's acquisition of Martha White was part of a broader trend in the grocery industry during the early 2000s. Conglomerates bought regional heritage brands for their name recognition and loyal customer base, then folded the production into larger, cheaper supply chains. The flour changed. The bag did not. Martha White's current parent company, J.M. Smucker, reported net sales of $8.2 billion in its 2024 fiscal year. The company has the scale to offer unbleached flour under this brand. It has chosen not to because the Southern Biscuit customer was already buying the bleached version and saw no reason to switch. The loyalty became the leverage. A brand down the shelf traded on that same loyalty even longer. Number 10, White Lily. White Lily has been the flour of choice for Southern biscuit makers since J. Allen Smith opened Knoxville City Mills in Tennessee in 1883. It is milled from 100% soft winter wheat, giving it a protein content of about 9%, the lowest of any major brand. That is what makes White Lily biscuits light and tender. That is also what makes this story harder to accept. The softness that built White Lily's reputation for 140 years was never about the bleach. It was always about the wheat. Soft winter wheat produces a lower gluten flour that naturally yields a more delicate crumb. White Lily could be milled from the same wheat, producing the same biscuit, without any chemical treatment at all. The company's own product page says the flour is bleached to provide whiter, softer flour with finer grains. They are telling you in their own published language that the bleaching is a cosmetic choice, not a functional one. The whiteness is vanity. The softness was already in the grain. White Lily was independently owned for over a century until it moved through Smucker's Pillsbury divestitures and landed with Hometown Food Company, which is itself a subsidiary. 3 corporate owners since your mother started using it. The name on the bag stayed. The family behind it left. You are baking with a brand that answers to a holding company now, and the holding company chose bleach because aging flour naturally takes 2 weeks to a month of silo space per batch, and silo space costs rent. The bleaching chemicals cost pennies and take hours. The math is simple, and the math won. The brand at number 2 prints exactly 1 ingredient on its organic bag. No enrichment block at all. We get there in about 12 minutes. But first, a name that used to mean something different than it means today. Number 9. Pillsbury Best All-Purpose. Pillsbury is one of the most recognized baking brands in America, and its default all-purpose flour is bleached and enriched. The ingredients: bleached wheat flour, niacin, iron, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid, enzyme. What most people do not realize is that Pillsbury has not been a flour company for a very long time. General Mills acquired Pillsbury in 2001 for $10.4 billion. The Doughboy, the crescent rolls, the refrigerated dough, and the flour all transferred to General Mills in that deal. Pillsbury Best flour is produced in General Mills facilities, on the same lines, from the same wheat supply, using the same bleaching process as Gold Medal. Different bag, same flour. The positioning is deliberate. Pillsbury Best sits at a slightly lower price point than Gold Medal, typically about 40 cents cheaper per 5-pound bag, designed to catch the shopper who is comparing shelf tags and reaches for the lower number. 2 brands, 1 mill, 2 price tiers, and twice the shelf space for 1 company. What started as genuine competition between 2 independent flour mills in the early 20th century is now market segmentation choreographed from the same corporate office in Minneapolis. General Mills does not advertise this relationship on the packaging. The bags sit side by side as if they are alternatives. They are not alternatives. They are the same flour in different costumes, priced so that whichever one you pick up, General Mills collects the sale. Imagine finding out your 2 favorite local coffee shops are owned by the same landlord, using beans from the same roaster, and competing only in the color of their awnings. That is what Pillsbury and Gold Medal are on the flour aisle. And this is where the real deception begins, because the label changes, but the flour inside barely does. Number 8. Great Value Unbleached. Now we cross a line that changes how you read every flour label for the rest of your life. Great Value Unbleached. All-purpose flour says unbleached on the front of the bag, and that claim is technically accurate. No bleaching chemicals were added. But flip the bag over and read the ingredient list. Enriched wheat flour, niacin, iron, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid. That is the word I promised you at the beginning. Enriched. Here is what it means. The mill took the wheat kernel and stripped away the bran and the germ, removing the fiber, the naturally occurring B vitamins, the iron, and the vitamin E that were already in the grain. Then, after removing all of that, the mill added synthetic versions of some of those nutrients back in. Not all of them. Vitamin E is gone for good. The fiber is gone for good. Enrichment is not restoration. It is a partial refund on a robbery. The FDA mandated enrichment in the 1940s because so many Americans were getting sick from eating nutritionally empty white bread. The solution was not to stop stripping the grain. The solution was to let the mills strip it and then require them to put part of it back. Your grandmother's flour, before the 1940s, had 1 ingredient: wheat. If your bag today lists 6 or 7 ingredients, the word unbleached on the front is a costume on a product that has been processed well past what that word implies. Every bag on the good list at the end of this video has 1 ingredient: That is the test. One flip, one word, one look at the ingredient panel. And you know, a brand with a much bigger name pulls the same move. Number 7. Kroger Unbleached All-Purpose. Kroger sells its own unbleached flour, and the front of the bag looks like an upgrade. Cleaner layout. The word unbleached is centered and confident. The bag design signals that you are making the better choice. Then you flip it over and read the back. Enriched wheat flour, niacin, reduced iron, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid, malted barley flour, enriched and unbleached. You avoided the bleach and walked straight into the enrichment. Kroger does not disclose which mill produces this flour. It does not publish protein content on the retail bag. It does not name the wheat variety. It does not specify ash content. King Arthur publishes all 3 of those figures. Bob's Red Mill names the wheat class on the packaging. Kroger gives you one reassuring word on the front and a block of synthetic additives on the back. The company reported over $150 billion in revenue in 2024 and operates nearly 3,000 stores across the country. It has the infrastructure and the margins to publish milling data on every bag it sells. It chooses not to because that kind of transparency is a competitive advantage. It would rather not extend to a store brand supplier it can replace next quarter. And the price difference between Kroger Unbleached and King Arthur is often less than $2 for the same 5-pound size. $2 between a flour that answers no questions and a flour that answers all of them. Imagine a friend telling you they quit smoking, but they still chew tobacco. Technically, a change. Not exactly the clean break you had in mind. Kroger Unbleached is the tobacco. It removed the thing you could see, the bleach, while keeping the thing you could not see unless you read the ingredient panel. But Kroger is a store brand. You might expect less. The next one carries a name that generations of American bakers grew up trusting. Number 6. Pillsbury Unbleached All-Purpose. This is where the escalation sharpens, because now we are inside the house of a name people trust. Pillsbury sells an unbleached version of its all-purpose flour, positioned clearly as the cleaner option on the shelf. The front of the bag says unbleached, in type large enough to read from across the aisle. The back of the bag tells a different story. The ingredient list: wheat flour, niacin, iron, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid, enzyme, unbleached, enriched. And there is that word again, enzyme, with no specification of which enzyme or what it does. Same company, same General Mills, same mill network that produces every bag of bleached Pillsbury and gold medal flour in the country. General Mills reported net sales of just under $20 billion in fiscal year 2024. That is a company with the resources to name every additive in every product it sells. It chose the word enzyme because the FDA permits it, and because consumers have not yet learned to ask what it means. The difference between Pillsbury Unbleached and Pillsbury Bleached, in practical terms, is one processing step removed. The wheat is the same. The enrichment package is the same. The unnamed enzyme is the same. The mill is the same. The price is almost the same. The omission of bleach is not a philosophy. It is not a commitment. It is a SKU, a line item in a product catalog designed to capture the consumer who started reading ingredient labels but did not read far enough. Imagine ordering a salad because you decided to eat cleaner and finding out the dressing has more calories than the burger you skipped. That is what Pillsbury Unbleached is on this shelf. One brand on this list has never been enriched, never been bromated, and sources American wheat exclusively. It is number 1. But we need to talk about the biggest flour brand in the country first. Number 5. Gold medal bleached all-purpose. Gold Medal is the best-selling flour brand in America. It has been on shelves for over 135 years, and it commands more shelf space in more stores than any competitor. Gold Medal Bleached is the company's flagship. Bleached wheat flour, malted barley flour, niacin, iron, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid. Bleached with chemicals that the European Union banned in the 1990s. Banned in Canada. Banned in the UK. Banned in China. Banned in Turkey. That 2025 study in Food, Nutrition, and Health documented that benzoyl peroxide, one of the agents used in American flour bleaching, is the same compound used to treat acne. It generates free radicals when it reacts with the flour's natural pigments, and those free radicals degrade vitamin E and vitamin A in the grain. The study, called the American Regulatory Stance, Profit-Driven Leniency, and cited the 1914 Lexington Mill ruling as the legal foundation that has shielded the practice for over a century. Gold Medal sits at the center of that foundation. In April 2023, General Mills issued a voluntary recall of Gold Medal flour for the potential presence of Salmonella infantis. The recall covered both bleached and unbleached varieties in 2, 5, and 10-pound bags. It was not the first recall. General Mills has pulled Gold Medal from shelves multiple times across recent years for pathogen contamination. The brand at number 3 has been organic and unbromated for over 50 years. It has never had a recall for contamination. We are almost there, but the worst brand on this list is the one that looks the safest. Number 4. This is the brand from the beginning, the one someone you trust recommended. The version you switched to when you learned that bleaching was a problem and you wanted something cleaner. Gold Medal, unbleached, all-purpose flour. Same parent company. Same General Mills. Same mill network that produces every bleached bag from number 9 to number 5 on this list. The ingredient list reads: wheat flour, niacin, iron, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, enzymes, folic acid. No bleach. But every single synthetic enrichment additive is still there. The enzymes are still unnamed. The wheat source is still undisclosed. And the April 2023 voluntary recall for potential Salmonella infantis contamination covered Gold Medal unbleached, right alongside the bleached version, in 2, 5, and 10-pound bags, because both products move through the same facilities. You paid more for this bag specifically to get away from the chemicals. What you got was the same flour, minus one processing step, with the same enrichment package from a company that has recalled its flour multiple times across recent years for pathogen contamination. General Mills could sell unenriched, unbleached flour tomorrow morning. King Arthur has done it since 1790. Bob's Red Mill has done it for decades. Arrowhead Mills has done it since the 1970s. All three compete at price points within $2 of Gold Medal. General Mills chose not to make that change because enrichment allows the company to start with lower-cost wheat and restore the nutrition synthetically. It costs less per bag. It also means the flour can list vitamins on the nutrition panel, which looks like a feature rather than a patch over a problem the company created by stripping the grain in the first place. That is the whole calculation. The bag that looks like the responsible choice on the shelf is the most profitable version of the same supply chain that produced every name from number 14 to number 5. If something on this list gets reformulated next month, the label report flags it before your next grocery run. Link below. That was 20 minutes of flour brands that either bleach with chemicals most of the world banned or hide behind unbleached while loading the ingredients with synthetic additives. Every name from 14 to 4 made the same calculation. Aging naturally costs time. Bleaching costs pennies. Enrichment lets you start with cheaper wheat. Everyone chose the cheaper path. These next 3 did not. They pay for natural aging, better wheat, and the margin hit because their names are on the bag and they decided that mattered. 3 out of 14 is not a score to celebrate. It means most of this aisle is broken. judged on three things: whether the flour is genuinely unenriched, whether the company discloses sourcing and testing, and whether the ingredient list is short enough for your grandmother to read without her glasses. Number 3. Arrowhead Mills Organic Unbleached All-Purpose Flour. Arrowhead Mills has been producing organic flour since the early 1970s, before the USDA Organic Certification Program even existed. The company was founded in Hereford, Texas, by Frank Ford, a wheat farmer who believed industrial agriculture was degrading the soil and the food that came out of it. Ford started milling his own wheat because he could not find a commercial flour that met his standards. That was over 50 years ago. Today, the organic all-purpose flour has one ingredient: organic wheat flour. One ingredient. Without enrichment, without unnamed enzymes, without malted barley flour, without synthetic niacin or synthetic iron or synthetic folic acid. Just ground wheat, milled from organic hard red winter wheat, aged naturally. Arrowhead Mills is USDA organic and non-GMO project verified, and the flour has been unbromated from the beginning because it never needed bromation. There was nothing to accelerate. The brand is now owned by Hain Celestial Group, a large natural foods conglomerate, and that ownership is worth knowing about. But the formulation has not changed under Hain. One ingredient going in, one ingredient listed on the bag. The 5-pound bag runs about $8.26 at Walmart, which works out to roughly 10 cents per ounce. Gold medal. Unbleached costs about $5 for 5 pounds, or 6 cents per ounce. The difference is 4 cents per ounce. On a standard recipe calling for 2 cups of flour, that adds up to roughly 12 cents more for flour that contains nothing it does not name on the label. 12 cents between a bag with 7 ingredients and a bag with 1. Your grandmother would not have called that expensive. She would have called it flour, because that is what flour used to be. Available at Walmart, Target, Amazon, Whole Foods, and most natural food stores across the country. Number 2. Bob's Red Mill Organic Unbleached All-Purpose Flour. Bob's Red Mill was founded in 1978 in Milwaukee, Oregon by Bob Moore, who started stone grinding grains because he believed the old methods preserved more flavor and more nutrition than high-speed roller mills. In 2020, Bob Moore transferred 100% ownership of the company to its employees through an employee stock ownership plan. Every person who mills, bags, and ships this flour owns a piece of the product. The organic all-purpose flour has one ingredient: organic, hard, red wheat. That is it. Unbleached, unbromated, and unenriched, with no synthetic vitamins added and no unnamed enzymes in the ingredient list. The wheat class is printed on the bag. Bob's Red Mill publishes protein content, which most competitors consider proprietary. The organic 5-pound bag costs about $7.14 at Walmart, which works out to 8.9 cents per ounce. That is cheaper per ounce than Arrowhead Mills, and the flour is still unenriched. One thing to watch: Bob's Red Mill also sells a conventional unbleached flour that is enriched. The clean version is the organic one. Look for the word organic on the bag, flip it over, and confirm the ingredient list names only wheat. If the conventional version is the one in your cart, you are getting the same enrichment package as Pillsbury. The organic bag is available at Walmart, Kroger, Target, Amazon, Whole Foods, and most stores with a natural foods section. For a standard bread recipe using 3 cups of flour, the cost is about 53 cents. Gold medal. Unbleached costs about 36 cents for the same recipe. 17 cents is the price of knowing every ingredient in your flour by name. Number 1. King Arthur. Founded in 1790 in Boston, Massachusetts, this is the oldest flour company in the United States, and it has never bleached a single bag of flour in 235 years of continuous operation. Never. Every retail bag carries the statement on the label: never bleached, never bromated. King Arthur became 100% employee-owned in 2004. It was one of the first companies in the country certified as a B Corporation, meaning it meets independently verified standards for social and environmental impact. The company publishes protein content, ash content, and wheat variety for every product it sells. All wheat is sourced from American farms, and that commitment is printed on the packaging. The all-purpose flour is milled from hard, red wheat at 11.7% protein, the highest of any national all-purpose brand. Every batch is test-baked at the company's facility in Norwich, Vermont, before it ships. King Arthur's retail flours are unenriched, unbromated, and contain no artificial preservatives of any kind, without unnamed enzymes or synthetic vitamin blocks. 2 ingredients: unbleached hard red wheat flour and malted barley flour. The 5-pound bag costs about $6.60 at most retailers, roughly 6.6 cents per ounce. That is in the same price range as gold medal unbleached, and it arrives without the enrichment, without the unnamed enzymes, and without the recall history. For a standard pie crust recipe using 2.5 cups, the flour costs about 33 cents, less than a single stamp. King Arthur is available at Walmart, Kroger, Target, Publix, Whole Foods, Amazon, and virtually every grocery store in the country. This is what flour looked like before the industry decided that aging it naturally was too slow and your pantry was an acceptable place to cut costs. Every brand from number 14 to number 4 could reformulate next quarter without announcing it. A mill contract expires, a supplier changes, and the flour in your pantry is not what it was 6 months ago. The label report rechecks every verdict monthly and flags recalls before your next trip. Scan the code on screen or use the first link below. $10 a month, cancel anytime. Go annual and 5 months are free. Just want the method? Both guides are $15, one time. Same link.